All right, good morning. Happy Saturday. Today it is, as we're recording this and doing this live together, it is April, it is a Saturday, and it is going to be a beautiful weekend, which is why perhaps if you are a runner, you might be out for a run, but maybe you're watching this later. Today's monthly theme is yoga for running season. And I think most of you know that I have admitted to not really being a runner. All of us can run, right? The body knows how to do that, but I'm not training for any marathons or anything like that. However, once in a while, I get this urge, and it's usually around this time of year to just get outside and run. I don't count how many steps. I don't really pay attention to how far. But this is the time of year for running, not only because it's warmer and not icy anymore, but because this bouncing activity of running and hitting the floor and the ground with your feet is very helpful for breaking up the sort of heavy energy that is predominant in the spring. So if it's not running, maybe you're outside more anyway, and your legs are getting perhaps a little bit of a different action or activity than they were during the winter. So today's class is intended to focus on the legs and the lower back and helping to both stretch, but also strengthen some of those areas that tend to get a little bit tender from overuse with running or some of the other spring activities like tennis and other things that we might be doing. Sound good? So if you have some props at home, you don't have to use anything, but if you have some props at home, I recommend a few things. One is a strap, or you can use a towel or a scarf, something that wraps around your foot so that your arms get longer. Another thing is a block. And if you have two, that's great. If you have none, that's also fine. If you have none, I would say just one book for one of the exercises that or activities we're going to do. Something that's flat. And then you may not have this, but I did have some at the former studio. So some of you may have grabbed some of these, which are like mini bands. It's a loop, but it's got some resistance to it. Again, if you don't have this, you don't need it, but I'll show you how you can use it for one of the things later on. So for now, you don't need any of those things. Let's just start standing. And take a moment. You can move around, you could stretch your arms, but take in your space. Look behind you, look around you. Just explore, what does it feel like to be you in this space, in this body right now, in this moment. And this also helps tell your nervous system that like you're safe. This space is fine. There's no lions, tigers, or bears, and you can spend more of your nervous system energy with yourself. In fact, if you want, you can take your hands to the body and check in. Touch is a wonderful way to get information. Notice any tenderness or feelings, sensations, heaviness, pleasure. And welcome whatever thoughts, emotions, or memories come to mind. You might be reviewing conversations that you've already had today or planning a little bit of what's happening next. These are all very normal human things to do. So be human, be yourself. And when you're ready, lower the arms. You might take the feet wide, bend your knees for standing cat-cow. Arch your back, stick your bum out, look forward, and then round, curl into yourself, chin to chest. Go back and forth a few times. And if this feels good to sort of wiggle side to side or even roll around a little bit, you can turn it into any kind of movement that feels good. And then slowly make your way up to stand. Take your feet wide, wrap your arms around you to twist, and lovingly hit yourself with your arms or your hands. As best you can, breathe in and out through the nose. And that's including when you run or do really vigorous activity. I know that sounds weird, right? Because as soon as the body starts really getting excited and doing something vigorous, if it cannot handle the level of carbon dioxide to oxygen percentage, right? It's the ratio, not the amount. If it can't handle it because of your increased activity, that's when the body sort of compensates and opens the mouth. And most of us just keep going and keep running and keep jumping or doing whatever we're doing, when really that's an indication that our body can't actually handle that much physical activity or stress or that intensity, right? So it's great to train yourself if you are running. Try to run with your mouth closed for as long as you can and see when that spot is that you kind of have to stop. You'll use your oxygen much more efficiently if you can breathe in and out through your nose. Anyway, that's a conversation that can be much longer for another day. All right, let's do a little side body stretch. So you can have your feet anywhere you like. I'm going to go super wide for this, just to do something different. And then lean off to one side. You can bring your arm with you to arch in that direction. You could lean onto the other leg if you're in a wide stance. And then switch and do the other side. And if this has to look different when you go the other way, that's fine. One more time to each side. And then shrug the shoulders, shake out the arms, walk the feet together. If it feels good to shake your whole body a little bit, shake out the feet and the legs. You can decide how enthusiastically you shake. All right. Before we get down into the first real exercise, I just want to have you walk around your space a little bit. And you can do that sort of, I know it seems weird, it's sort of artificially walking in a small spot. You can go around your room if you like, but then start to walk on the outside edges of your feet. Now, this is not how I suggest you walk or run on a regular basis, but why are we doing this? We're doing this because sometimes, especially when you're running or stepping in the woods, you might sort of be in this position for a temporary moment in time. And if your body is kind of trained to be desensitized, like, oh, I know how to handle that, then nothing crazy, terrible will happen, right? If your body can be in this shape, you know, with mild load or body weight, then you'll be fine, right? Now try to walk sort of on the inside, and this is where it gets a little weird or awkward. You might bend your knees and it might feel like you're not quite on the edges, and that's fine. But try to lift your feet, the outside edges of your feet. Same thing, right? Your body knows how to do this. It doesn't do this very often, but in the odd chance that you're out running and suddenly you step somewhere weird and you're in this position, we want to be ready for that. So any kind of novel movements with the feet is great. You might be on your tiptoes and walk around on your tiptoes with your heels up. You might try walking on your heels with your toes up. For some reason, I find this easier to do backwards. All right, and then do any kind of combination of those things. So like outside, inside, tippy toe, heels, regular. Again, all of this is optional. If you're like, Emily, that looks like fun, you go right ahead. That's fine too. All right. Whew. Shake out the legs again. And then let's come down to sit. Take your feet wide, and if possible, windshield wiper your knees a few times from side to side. One of the things runners tend to complain about is their hips and this outer line of the leg, which is sometimes known as the IT band. Now, the IT band is always going to be tight, right? It's one of those things that, like, oh, my IT band is tight. Yay! That means you're not falling apart literally at the seams. So some things are meant to be tight, but what we can do is still move, stretch, and allow the energy to move more freely instead of feel stuck, right? Okay, so this next exercise, bring your legs around to your right so that both knees are bent and you're sort of in, some people call this a 90-90 position, but your legs don't have to be 90 degrees, right? They're both folded and bent. And if for any reason this doesn't feel appropriate for you, then please skip it. So your left shin is the one in front of you that you can see, right, with the ankle up. I want you to push your whole shin from the knee to the foot down into the ground, like you're trying to move it through the floor, and then hold that downward pressing position. So you're pressing down, 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 down. You might be feeling a little bit of something in one or both hips. And then release that and now go the other direction, which is to lift or attempt to lift the shin off the ground. Now, it's pretty easy to bring the knee up for most people, but what's hard is the whole shin, including the ankle and the foot. Now, it may not get off the floor, and that's really irrelevant. What we want is this action of trying, at least trying to get the foot and the shin off the floor. You may feel yourself leaning back a little bit. You might get some more feelings here. Nice. And then relax that and push down again. We're going to do that a few times back and forth. So this is one way that you can both help with mobility in the hips, but also create a bit more strength in that outer line, right? Especially when you're pulling up. So switch and try to pull the shin off of the floor. And it's okay, again, if it doesn't leave the ground. One more time, press down. And release and try to lift up. Nice. Okay, let's switch sides. Now, when you switch sides, things might look totally different. On one side, maybe things don't work at all. You know, hips may be replaced. Other things in life may have happened. On the other side, things may work differently or need to look different, and that's okay. And as best you can, see if you can push down. Press the shin and the ankle into the floor. Nice. And then lift it up. Oh, this is the side that doesn't want to come up for me. But I'm still trying. I'm still pretending to lift. So the action is there. All right. Press down again. Nice. And then lift. Ugh. Sometimes after doing it a few times, my ankle will lift just a smidge, just for a second. All right, last time, push down, press and hold. And then switch, lift. Oh, okay, release all of that. Bring the legs around. You might rub or thank your hips and your legs and even your low back for all of that. Okay, now, if you have a strap at home, grab it. And if you have a block or a book, grab that. We're gonna create a little package here using both together. So loop the strap or your towel or your scarf around the base of the long edge of your block, and place your right foot flat on top of the block. Now you're gonna have to pull to make sure this doesn't fall down, and then slowly roll onto your back so that your foot is now in the air. If you don't have a block or a book, then you can still do this with the strap, but I find that there's a little bit more awareness and feeling of the relationship of the foot to the leg when you have that flat block underneath your foot. You can tell me yes or no as well. So from here, you might be feeling some feelings down the back of the leg, right? Maybe into the hip, some stretchiness, some other sensations. What I want you to try is to pull the toes towards your face or towards your knee so that the one edge of the block is dipping down a little bit towards you. Now notice what that changed or where you feel the feelings. I'm feeling them more in my calf when I pull the toes towards my face. All right, now go the other way and point the toes towards the sky. You're gonna have to pull against the strap to make sure the block doesn't fall. And you may not get all the way to pointed, but my hope is that then you start feeling some feelings down the front of the shin, maybe into the top of the foot, near the ankle joint area. And then go back and forth a few times. So pull the toes towards your face, heel kind of kicking to the sky. And then push in the opposite direction like you're stepping on the gas pedal, toes to sky, heel down. Nice. Maybe one more time in each direction. And then find somewhere sort of in between. So you're not trying to pull or point or anything. You're sort of flat-ish, even though nothing is flat. All right, from here, keep your foot relatively where you have it. Like your leg is relatively where you have it. But remember when we walked on the outside edge of the foot just a minute ago, right? We were standing up. I want you to see if you can bring the big toe side of the foot and the block down a little bit. So you might pull with your left hand so that the outer edge of your foot is pointing a little bit higher in the sky. And notice what feelings that evokes. For me, I get more of a stretch down the outer side of the leg, especially from the foot to the mid calf area. All right, now switch so that your left hand is pulling down on the strap. So now your outside edge of the foot is down and the inside edge of the foot is up, which mimics that walking on the inside edge of the foot, right? So your big toe side is higher than your pinky toe side. Notice what that does. And these are probably really small movements. Go back and forth a few times and just explore. So you might change your foot position and then hold for a moment. And then change the foot position and hold, notice, explore. So sometimes people get weird about like, oh, I shouldn't turn my foot out like that. But your body knows how to do it. The question is, are you then also carrying like a ton, a literal ton of weight on your back and then climbing up a mountain in that position? Hopefully not, probably not. All right. So for me, I find that the easiest way to switch to the other foot is to stay here and carefully take my left foot now to the block and scoot the right one out of the way. If you'd rather, or you feel safer coming up to sit and doing that, that's fine. So however you get there, switch the foot that's in this strap block scenario. And then explore on this side. So start with the toes pulled towards your face or your knee, heel kicking skyward, and then point like you're pushing on the gas pedal, heel down, toes up. And go back and forth a few times. And notice what's different here, in the feeling, in the range of motion. And then go to the side to side. So when you're complete with that, pull down on one side of the strap. So you're mimicking like you're walking on the outside edge, but you're walking on the ceiling. And then pull the left side down. Now the big toe side is higher and the pinky toe side. And you can go back and forth a few times. All right, when you feel complete with that, carefully bring the foot down so that you can let go of the block. We don't need that for now. But bring the strap around your first foot again. So the right foot, no block. And just notice the difference. So when you have the block, I feel like it's more obvious, where my foot is in space, but you can still use those actions of pulling the toes towards your knee and then, or pointing, right? Those are going to be different feelings on your leg. And also side to side is going to be different. And whenever you're in this stretch, right, with the strap, you can choose how you want your foot to be in the strap, which part of the foot the strap is pressing in, right? If you want more of that toes pulling towards the face feel, you can move the strap up towards the ball of your foot. That can help create that. And then try the other foot just to compare with the block versus without the block. I find too, for me, that without the block, this gets me more of a stretch down into the back of my whole leg, not just in the calf, right? Whereas we were sort of isolating the foot when we had the block there. All right. You can let go of that for now and draw your knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock a little side to side. And then keep a hold of the right knee with the hands. Extend the left leg long along the ground, wind relieving pose. Feel free to stay here or walk your right hand up to the shin or grab the foot for half happy baby. Your opposite hand can simply rest at your side. And then switch legs. Draw the left knee in, grab it with the hands, squeeze. And then if you like, take half happy baby on this side. All right, extend both legs, maybe reach the arms up overhead if that feels good, full body stretch. And then however you come up to sit is great. You can roll off to one side, or if you're feeling frisky, rock and roll back and forth a few times, kick your feet. And come around onto your hands and knees. If you have tender knees like I do, you might grab a blanket. But have your feet so that they're on the mat or on the floor, but not necessarily on a blanket. You're going to curl your toes under for toe stretch. Another great thing for runners, but with all of us switching from boots to spring footwear, all of our feet could probably use a little stretch. So as best you can, and being mindful of any injuries or incidents that your feet have experienced in their lifetimes, curl the toes under. If you want a little bit more stretch, you can lean the hips back towards your heels. You're in charge of how much load or weight you're experiencing here. For the intense toe stretch, you would lift your hands off of the floor and bring your head up over your hips, which is now over your heels. That might be too much. So you decide and pause for a moment. The hard part is breathing so that the energy flows. Nice. And then lean forward, come out of that, woo, uncurl the toes and give them a light little tap. Ah, nice. From here, curl the toes under again. I promise we're not doing that again. But this time, lift your hips for downward dog pose. Feel free to move the blanket off to the side. And bend your right knee deeply so that your left heel presses to the floor. Notice the stretch down the leg, but also into the calf. If you'd rather do this on hands and knees, you can take one foot back and press in that way. And then switch, other side. So bend your left knee, press your right heel down. Nice. And then switch again. So bend your right knee, press your left heel down. But this time, perhaps take your left hand to the outside edge of your right shin or ankle or some part of the leg here. So you're in a downward dog twist situation. If you want, you can bend both knees, or you can slowly press both heels back behind you and turn so that you're looking under your right shoulder. And then set your hand back down and try the other side. Bend your left knee deeply. Option to stay right here or take the twist. Lift your right hand, take it back so your opposite hand is grabbing the outside of your bent knee, and then turn the chest to the right, to the left. And totally optional if you want to straighten the knees any amount. Nice. Replace both hands. Spend a moment in neutral, either in downward dog or tabletop. And then take your left foot forward towards the hands. Turn your right heel down behind you and come on up to stand. Nice and easy here. All right. So let's come into triangle pose. So bring your arms out wide. You're turned to the left. So reach towards the left side wall and then perhaps spin the arms. And just for today, try not to go the whole way that you can go, because now we're going to make it dynamic. You could stay static, or you can start to reach down just a little bit further with the left fingertips towards the floor, and then use the muscles in your trunk and side waist to lift you up out of that a little bit and reach towards the sky with the opposite hand. So reach down with the left and then reach up with the right. And it can be a really small move, or you can be still, or you can do something else. Listen to what feels interesting and right for you. Nice. And then press your way all the way back up to stand. Turn your feet around to face the other way. So now you're facing the right side wall. Reach out with that hand and spin into triangle pose. And then if you like, explore the dynamic triangle, reaching down, leaning a little bit further, and reaching up as if backing out of it. So it's in the dynamic movement that we help also create some strength, not just for the side body, but for the side back, lower back area. Nice. When you're feeling complete with that, come all the way up to stand. Turn your feet so that they're more parallel, but still wide, maybe not super wide. And then hinge forward any amount. You could pause halfway or reach for a block or the floor or the side of a chair. And come into standing wide angle forward fold. to come out, bend your knees, take your hands to your hips or thighs, and come on up with a strong back. Nice and easy. Beautiful. Feet together, shake it out, or do a little twist or a little hula. Whatever feels good. Move the blocks to the side for now. We'll use them again in a moment. But come to the center of your mat and step behind you with your right foot at an angle, kind of like you're curtsying. One of my friends calls this a skater lunge, right? You're gonna lean back and bend both knees probably a little bit here. And then push, especially off of your back foot, and come back to your starting position with both feet underneath you. And then switch. Lean back, reach back with the left toes as far back as feels comfortable. So you're kind of in this twisted lunge-like situation. And then come on up to stand. Try a few more. You can choose your level of enthusiasm. You might just kind of lightly tap the foot. You could also lean back and come down and lower down quite a lot. That feels pretty strong for the thighs and the knees. Another area that runners need to be strong or have strong tissues around it. If you want to explore a little deeper, you can kind of come down and nestle your knees behind one another. It's almost like an old school version of eagle pose. And if you want to wrap left arm over right, you can. And then push into your feet. Come on up. Open the arms wide. Nice. Try the other side. Lean back into that twisted skater lunge. If you like, add the arms or hug the shoulders. Lower down. Any amount more. Woo, and then push back up. Nice. You can go one more time on each side, or if you'd rather have this be more bouncy and fun, you can speed it up. It won't be as intense, but in a different way, the heart rate gets up. So you choose for last 10 seconds. All right, and then slow it down. Or maybe you pretend you're doing a little dancing, swaying. And it's always nice to check back in after you get the heart rate going. Like, how am I doing? Okay. No lions, tigers, or bears. It can feel exciting and it can also feel good, even if it's challenging or even scary sometimes, depending on the situation. Feel free to stay in that check-in mode a little longer, or we'll do pyramid stretch next. So for this, I like to use blocks, or I like to be close to the side of a couch, which is much higher, or like a chair. Step back with your left foot and reach down for the chair or the blocks, and let your torso fold over that front leg. Now for this shape, personally, I like to have the back heel lifted. So my belly button is pointing more down instead of off to the side. But that's a personal preference you can play with. You can also shorten the stance and get plenty out of it. In fact, it just feels different. And then lift the chest, but keep your hands on the block, or if you're using the chair, so that your back feels a little bit less rounded. Not because we don't want it rounded, but just because it makes this next part easier. Revolved pyramid. So leave your left hand, your opposite hand, down on whatever it's holding, the floor, the block, or the chair, and take your right hand to your right hip. And now turn your belly button to the right any amount. You can stay right here, or if it's fun, lift your right hand to the sky. If it's awkward in the shoulder, skip that part. And my hope is that you feel some feelings, probably down that outside seam of your leg, that IT band I was talking about. Nice. When you're ready, unwind, catch the block with your left hand or your right hand, and then go ahead and turn to the left a little bit. So your heel might come down now, so that now you can open to the other side. So after twisting, now we're opening. And it's a variation of triangle pose with the hand on the block or the floor or the chair if you're using it. And then bring your left hand back down. Walk your feet together at the front of the mat for a moment. Bend your knees, maybe grab opposite elbows for a standing forward bend. And then we'll do the other side. So now step back with your right foot, any amount, pyramid stretch. Feel free to fold towards that thigh, the front leg thigh. And then lift your chest away from the thigh so that you're less rounded. Keep your arms relatively straight against the blocks and take your left hand to your left hip. Leave your right hand down to support for revolved pyramid. Turn the belly any amount to the left. And if you like, reach the left hand to the sky. If you can smile while you're doing this, you're definitely doing it right. Woo, lots of feelings. And then unwind and let's go in the other direction. So bring your back heel down, leave your left hand on the floor, the block, or the chair now, and spin your belly to the right so you can open, almost like a release. Your right hand can be anywhere that's comfortable. And then bring both hands back down. You can either step forward if you like the forward fold position, or step back to downward dog. You could also rest in tabletop or child's pose or any combination of those things or something that feels good for you. And then set up so that your left foot is at the front of your mat again. I like to use the blocks just for this first part. Shift the weight forward and kick your, I'm sorry, I have no idea what I just said. Is your left foot forward or your right? Whichever one is forward is fine. I'm going to say it's the right foot forward, left foot back, but whatever you're doing is great. You're going to shift your weight to your front foot and kick your back foot skyward. So you're in like a half standing split. But keep your leg that's lifted roughly parallel to the floor. And then lighten up on the hands so that you're starting to give the pose to your standing leg in particular. You could bend your standing leg a little bit. Maybe the hands or fingertips rest on the block. Maybe they come up to the hip. Now you're in warrior 3 or flying warrior. And then we'll do my favorite elevator move. So if you're still with me, you're going to bend your standing leg, whatever amount that it can bend, might just be a little half-inch bend, and then push into the floor with your foot as if to straighten the leg. It doesn't have to go all the way straight, but it's like you're in an elevator going down one story and then coming back up. Woo, hello hip strength. It's also a lot of lower back because you're lifting your legs. So if you want to keep the toes closer to the floor, that's fine. Try a couple more if you're still with me. And then reach for the blocks. Whew, bring the lifted leg down. And take a moment here. Maybe you bend the knees a lot and fold. And then we'll switch sides. So however you get there, now your left foot is down, your right leg is lifted. Or if you're doing your other left side, that's fine. Start here. Feel your foot strong against the earth. And then get a little lighter on the hands. So bring more of the weight into your foot. Perhaps bend your knee a little to make that possible. Maybe your hands come up to the hips. Embrace the wobbliness. And then maybe start to do the elevator move. So bend your standing leg any amount and then push to come back up to the first floor. Go down to the lower level and then back up. Woo! I feel like my first side was harder and this one's a little stronger. You might notice some differences too. Try one or two more. And then grab the blocks. Carefully bring your legs down. And pause here for a moment in forward fold or half forward fold, or even downward dog if you like. That can feel nice after the hip work. And then come into a lizard lunge, which means a really wide-legged lunge with your right foot outside of your pinky finger and your left foot back. Feel free to lower the knee down here. And if it's more comfortable to have your hands on blocks, hopefully they're still handy and close by. So I'm sort of in this wide lizard. I imagine a lizard climbing up with this awkward sort of wide leg motion up a coconut tree or something, a palm tree. Some of you may decide you want to come down onto the blocks with your forearms, if that's even possible. If not, don't worry about it. And some of you might decide to take the active version of the pose, which is to curl the back toe under and lift the knee up off the ground. Nice. Now we're going to switch sides, and there's a million ways you can get there. If you want to lower the knee down, great. If you're with me for a little bit of a plank pose, walk the blocks out of the way so you can bring the hands flat to the floor and step your front foot back to meet the back foot. Now you're in plank. You're welcome to lower the knees down at any point. Draw the navel in, feel the side waist muscles working. The front and back of your trunk working, holding you up, feeling strong. And then bring your other foot to the outside of your left hand. Start with the knee down, lizard lunge, other side. Feel free to bring the blocks back into play. Adjust your stance so that you're comfortable. Right, so there's like an odd level of comfort. There's some sensation, some stretch, some feelings, but you don't feel like you need to escape the shape. Feel free to play with whether or not on this side the elbows want to come down to the blocks or not. If you want to play with the active version of the shape and lift the knee. And remember, it doesn't have to be the same on this side as it was on the first. You do a million more things with your dominant hand. So we are not the same from left to right. That's okay. Nice. One more chance for plank pose. If you're up for it, step your right foot, your left foot back to plank. Press down into your hands. Feel your belly and your back strong. And then lower the knees and rest with your forearms down, maybe with the hips back towards child's pose. Take a moment. And rise up. Come on up to your bum. Extend the legs out. Move the blocks out of the way. Give a shake. So if you have one of those little mini bands, just have it nearby so you can reach for it in a moment and come down onto your back. It feels so good. Feel free to bring the knees in if you like, or stretch out for a moment. And next, we'll do a variation on bridge pose that's intended to help strengthen the the hips in particular. So set yourself up so your feet are close to being under your knees, your arms are by your sides, your back feels nice against the ground. And then lift the balls of your feet and toes. So for me, I don't have a lot of flexion there, so I need to kind of scoop my heels out a little bit so that I feel like I can lift that part of my foot and only have the heels on the ground. So heels kicking on the ground, arms by your sides. Now, push the heels down and lift your hips up like you're coming into bridge, but try to keep only your heels on the ground. I know it's a lot for the feet, but that's part of what we're doing. That action on the feet and the front of the shin is really helpful, especially for the runners in the room. If at any point you need to bring the toes down, that's fine. It is going to feel a little different here. So from the highest point that you're at, doesn't have to be your highest possible, but just your highest point, start to bring the knees wide. And as best you can, try not to lower the hips until you absolutely have to. Keep taking the knees wide, wide, wide. And then at some point, your hips start to drop. That's fine. Start to lower them, but don't lower them all the way to the floor. So hover and then squeeze the knees in together and press the hips back up to your highest point. And do that again. Go knees wide, lower the hips, slow motion, knees together, hips up. Try it again. Knees wide, hips lower, knees together, hips up. Keep going, but if you have one of those little mini bands and you want to add some extra resistance, challenge, bring it up above the knees so that the strap is around your lower thighs. And then try that same move. Kick into the heels, toes lifted, hips high, and then press out into the band, knees wide, lower the hips, knees together, hips up. It just adds a little bit of extra resistance for the outer hip. Once you've done a few in that direction, reverse the circle. So now hips down knees wide, hips up, knees together. Try that a few more times. If it's all very confusing, don't worry. I hope you feel some feelings here. I'm getting quite a lot of feelings in that outer hip. Woo! And when you feel complete, release your hips down. Take the band off if you have it there, and take a moment to stretch or squeeze. I like to stretch and then point my feet because having the heels on the ground but toes lifted really works the top of the foot. Oh, yeah. And then from here, if you want to take a reclined pigeon pose, cross your left ankle over the right, making a figure 4. You could stay here or reach through the legs and grab the back of your right thigh and then rest your head down. When you're ready, try the other side. So unwind the legs, cross right over left, and honor whatever differences you find on this side. Feel free to reach through the leg and grab the back of your left thigh. And then unwind. Take the feet wide on your mat, your arms wide on your mat, and twist the knees to the left and up and over to the right. You can go back and forth a few times or twist and hold. And then if there are any final movements your body wants, another squeeze, another stretch, maybe a regular bridge, right? With the feet flat, lift the hips, just to know what that feels like. Ooh, I can feel some of that action in my buttocks and hips. And then find a comfortable place for relaxation. You could stay reclined. You could have some support of a pillow perhaps under the thighs. That can be nice for your lower back. Or you could come and sit so that your back is supported by a wall or even a chair. Restfulness is not the same as stillness, right? So find whatever position you're comfortable in. And be with this sort of residue of your practice. Any sensations or warmth in the body you might be aware of. Any emotions or thoughts that are present. Sometimes the body loves to run, it loves to move, it loves to be in action. And sometimes the body loves to rest. What is the feeling now? And what do you want to remember from this practice? Whether it's a feeling, an inspiration, a moment of wisdom, a new favorite movement to explore. As you're ready, begin to bring your awareness to your environment again, the outside world. You might notice the quality of light coming into your room. If anything has changed in what you see or the colors. And when you feel ready, make a slow, easeful transition back up to a comfortable seat. And thank yourself for taking this time to be with yourself, to explore and move, perhaps in some new or different ways. I thank you so much, and I wish you a lovely day, a lovely running season. As always, I love your questions and your comments, especially if you're watching this recording. Write a comment on the video so that I know that it's something that you like, or maybe you have a question about something that we did together. I'll see you next time.